Okay, let's start. So we're in the middle of Muktzah, what's called Keli Shemalachta L'Isser, which means a vessel whose primary use is for something forbidden. So we learned that there's two cases you're allowed to move it. Either you need the place it's on, or you want to use that object for something permissible. Like you said, you have a hammer. A hammer is Keli Shemalachta L'Isser because it's made to construct construction, which is forbidden on Shabbos. So therefore, if you need the place, you can move it, or if you want the hammer to do something permissible, like crack open a coconut or a nut or whatever, then you're allowed to do it. Okay, pens, we said, is also the same thing. These are very practical dinim, because a lot of times people leave pens on the table before Shabbos begins. And then the din is, let's say you have only a few people, and you're going to be eating on that side of the table, and the pen is here. You're not allowed to move the pen off the table on Shabbos because you don't need the place. If you decide to eat on this side of the table, then you can move the pen. But you cannot move, or all these things, if they're on a countertop. You have somebody left the pen next to the phone on the countertop. You can't move the pen out of the way unless if you need the place. Or you want to use the pen for something permissible. Otherwise you can't move it. Just because you don't want it to get ruined or broken or whatever, you can't move it for that reason. Tefillin, according to the Alter Rebbe, there's no difference, because tefillin you're not allowed to wear on Shabbos either. Some poskim say sometimes you are allowed to wear tefillin. So, but the Alter Rebbe holds that tefillin are what's called Keli Shemalachta L'Isser. You can only wear it for permissible things. So there's a din. I didn't say it because it doesn't apply that much to women. There's a din that if somebody finds tefillin in the street on Shabbos, and they find tefillin in the street and they're becoming disgraced. So then you're allowed to wear them, put them on Shabbos, bring them to a house, and then take them off. That's a different story. You have to leave it where it is. Unless if you need the place, or they're becoming disgraced, then you can move it to a different place. But if somebody left their pair of tefillin on the table, that's it. You can't take it away. Okay, the same thing like this. Now, you know, they have these hole punchers and the staplers, all these things you're not allowed to do on Shabbos. So therefore, they're Keli Shemalachta L'Isser. Paper clips are not at all Muktzah because you could put paper clips. The problem with a stapler is actually you're sewing pieces of paper to each other. Paper clips, you're not sewing anything, you're just sticking it together like a rubber band. So therefore, paper clips are not muktzah at all because they're Keli Shemalachta L'Heter. An umbrella. I mean, all these things that you don't think about it. Somebody left an umbrella. What? We'll get to that. Yeah, we said electrical things you can move if you need it to blow in a different direction. You can't press a remote for the air conditioner. Well, if you need the bed to sleep on, so then you need the place. You're allowed to move the remote. But I'll give you an example that we're going to learn later. An iPhone is worse than Keli Shemalachta L'Isser. It's worse. We're going to learn there's a Muktzah. I'm not getting it. We're not there yet. But there's a Muktzah that's called Muktzah Machbes Chisorin Kis. It's Muktzah because you won't use it only for what it's made to use, because otherwise you might ruin it. You might lose it. You might lose money. To give you a few examples. We're going to learn more when we get there. You buy a piece of clothing, okay, and you want to return it. You don't want it. Now normally clothes are not Muktzah. According to many opinions, because you want to return it to the store, you don't want to ruin it, you don't want to make it dirty, you're not going to use it for anything. So therefore, why? Because then you won't be able to return it. You're going to lose money. Right? So then the din is, that is completely Muktzah. Again, to give you another, a sheichet's knife. Yeah? Nobody's going to cut a piece of cake with it. A moil's knife. Nobody's going to cut a piece of cake with a moil's knife. Why? It's too delicate, too expensive to use for anything else but what it's made to use for. Correct? So therefore, it's completely Muktzah on Shabbos. Even though it's Keli Shemalachti L'Isser, in other words, its primary purpose is for Shechita, and Shechita is permissible on Shabbos, yeah? I mean, forbidden on Shabbos, but this is even worse. A hammer, you don't care to use for anything, because you don't care, that's what the hammer could be made for something. Right, but a moil's knife, a sheichet's knife, you're not going to use for anything but Shechita or Mila. So therefore, it's a completely Muktzah. If you left your iPhone, same thing with an iPhone, by the way. iPhones are expensive, right? Nobody's going to use an iPhone for anything but texting, speaking. You're not going to use it as a bookmark or to prop up. You're not going to use it for anything else but that.
How about an old iPhone?
1 second. So therefore, it's completely Muktzah. You can't move it even if it's on your bed. Now we'll learn later on that even real Muktzah you can move not in the normal way of carrying. Like you can blow Muktzah, you can kick Muktzah, you can do it with your elbow. So let's say somebody left their iPhone on the bed, yeah, and they want to go to sleep. So what you're going to have to do is with the elbow, shove it off the bed. And then make sure it doesn't, hopefully it won't break. But you got a problem with it. Anyway, that's not exactly what we were starting now. Umbrellas. Now, umbrella is a keli shemalachti l'isser. Why? Because you're not allowed to use an umbrella on Shabbos, even if you're allowed to carry it. Like Yom Tov, you can't use an umbrella. Why? Because you're creating a tent. You're you're making a tent. Part of Baina. So therefore, an umbrella is a keli shemalachti l'isser. So therefore, but if you need the place, see somebody left the umbrella on the kitchen floor, dining, whatever it is. Or, if you want to use it as a walking stick, to help you walk. Or a very practical thing also that it could be used for. Sometimes you need to reach something high up, and the umbrella has the handle at the end. So you pick up the umbrella and you... What?
I never thought of it.
To use the umbrella for that? As long as it's not glass jars, I wouldn't do it.
Right.
But then, if I want to get something, let's say on Shabbos, from the place high up, I would be allowed to take the umbrella and do it, because then I'm using it for something permissible, to get something from up high. So then you would be allowed to do it. But otherwise, an umbrella is Muktzah. Okay, let's discuss brushes.
I want to just ask.
What?
Let's see, we are on the street.
What?
And it starts raining. Okay?
You're on the street and it starts raining.
Shabbat.
You get wet, yeah.
Okay. It's okay to take a piece of paper and make it just protect your head.
Paper not. First of all, what are you going to do? First of all, you can't carry.
Yeah, but a woman can make it like a hat.
A piece of paper like a hat.
A plastic bag. Sometimes you go to something that happens.
Okay, so yeah, but it depends then also. If you're doing it to protect your head, no, to protect your shaitan, you're not allowed to. No. You're only allowed to do it to protect your head shouldn't get wet. Yeah, because you can't make it to protect your clothing. You can only do it if it adds warmth to your body.
So to make yourself healthy, if you would...
Yeah, but nothing to do with the shaitel. If your hair is not going to get wet, your head's not going to get wet, and just you're running about your shaitel, you can't do it. What? Yeah, if it's a hood, that's a whole different story. Okay, let's discuss brushes. Now, toothbrushes are called keli shemalachti l'isser, according to most opinions. Why? Because normally a toothbrush is made to use with toothpaste. Normally you brush your teeth with toothpaste.
But if you use with mouthwash.
1 second. So normally the toothbrush you use during the week, which you use with toothpaste, is a keli shemalachti l'isser. It's primary because it's a vessel that you're not allowed to use on Shabbos, because you can't smear toothpaste on Shabbos. So therefore, there's a whole shaila b'chlal and halacha about using toothbrushes on Shabbos. Some poskim permit if you have a separate toothbrush for Shabbos and you don't use toothpaste, you can use liquid mouthwash. In Eretz Yisrael, they have liquid toothpaste for Shabbos. That you could use. But that's providing that your gums don't bleed. Some people, every time they brush their teeth, because they have not good gums, every time they brush their teeth.
There's liquid toothpaste here as well.
Okay, I said, but Eretz Yisrael, I think, originated. Yeah, I mean, then you, but according to the Meshach Feinstein, you need a separate toothbrush, and you have to make sure that your teeth don't bleed.
So this is the problem.
You kind of know what your teeth
Not
bleed.
a brushing problem. Not a brushing.
No, the brushing is not a problem, because the bristles of the toothbrush is nylon. So there's no schita nylon. Okay, right? You couldn't, let's say for argument's sake, you want to brush your teeth with a napkin. So you take a brush and put a napkin on and brush your teeth like that. Then you might come to schita, depending how much water you use or whatever. But that could be a problem. But some poskim write, B'chlal, I don't know, in the Frumah circles, B'chlal, they didn't brush their teeth on Shabbos. The same thing while we're on the topic, dental floss on Shabbos. So number one, you can't cut dental floss, because you're not allowed to cut anything to size. So let's say you have pre-cut dental floss. Let's say you have pre-cut dental floss, or you're the only one there and you just roll it out and you don't cut it. You just leave it there and you use it. So that's okay if your teeth don't bleed. If every time you floss, your teeth bleed, then you're not allowed to floss on Shabbos. Because inevitably you're causing it to bleed. And that you can't do on Shabbos. If your teeth sometimes bleed, sometimes don't bleed, then you're allowed to do it on Shabbos. Because then it's not psik reisha. You don't want it to bleed and it's not for sure going to bleed. So then it would be okay to do it. Huh? No, some people say you need a separate toothbrush for Shabbos. That's what the Meshach Feinstein says. Okay. Now, clothes brushes. You're not allowed to brush your clothing on Shabbos, right? It's cleaning. So, a clothes brush, or a hat brush for that matter, it's Muktzah on Shabbat. It's Kedish Melachta Le'Isser. So, it's a problem. Same thing, paint brushes, shoe shine brushes, all these things that you do normally with forbidden things you're not allowed. Now, what's with hair brushes and combs? Okay. Now, brushing hair and combing hair on Shabbos is really not allowed. Why? One second. Why? Because you're going to rip out hairs, especially a comb. So many people have what's called soft brushes. They're soft brushes that don't work too well, by the way. But then when you use them, you're not going to for sure pull out hair. But otherwise, a comb for sure pulls out hair. Brushes, the regular hair brush is going to always pull, not always, but depends what type of brush you have also. Anyway, it's Kedish Melachta Le'Isser.
Even shekels you're worried about pulling out?
No, sheitel is a problem. Quite there are many poskim pulling out hair because it's sewn in to the cap, right? And therefore you are pulling out hairs. But it's interesting. One of the questions they asked us, the Rabbanim by the convention now in New York, can you tease a sheitel on Shabbos? Tease. So I didn't know what it meant. So before the kinnis, I asked my wife, "What's teasing a sheitel?" So she told me, "You just hold it up and you tease it lightly." Yeah. Okay. So that again, a comb, you really is a kelish melachta le'isser. It's a kelish melachta le'isser. But if you're using for permissible use, now, normally when you tease a sheitel, you're not brushing it in a way that you're going to rip out hairs. Teasing a
What do you
sheitel.
do?
Teasing?
Yeah.
No, not unless you really do it tight. The way I was told that teasing is very light. It just,
Not the way I do.
huh?
Not the way I do, but okay.
Okay. So again, I said, no, he said it to Kinnis. If it pulls out hair, then you're not allowed to. If it doesn't pull out hair, normally I was told it doesn't.
Rollers in your sheitel?
Can you put in rollers on your shaitan? No, that's forming. It's like boina. That you can't do. In fact, shaitels made of synthetic fibers may be brushed in Shabbos and Yom Tov. Hair, but therefore not muktzah. Because they say it's not geizes. Natural hair is worse, by the way, than regular. Okay. Gardening tools, all those things are muktzah. Now, another interesting... What? Synthetic shades that you can... Yeah. Now, a woman's purse or wallets or credit card holders. Now, all these things, let's say, a purse or a billfold that you use only for money, it's real muktzah on Shabbos. It's not even kedshim lachtil isid.
Okay.
It's
You have in your purse, I want to ask. You have.
You cold?
I have my eyeglass.
the heat's on it.
I forgot to take off my eyeglass. Okay.
That's a whole separate din. Well, 1 minute. We'll learn. There's what's called the base for muktzah, not muktzah. A lot of differences, a lot of dinim. You have a drawer in your bedroom or in a kitchen that has muktzah and not muktzah. A table has muktzah on it. So there's a din, something which is a base for muktzah is muktzah, like the base, like the thing of muktzah. The base of muktzah is muktzah. If it's base for muktzah, non-muktzah, then whichever one is not financially, whichever one is more important to you now, that's the main thing. For instance, everybody knows the Jewish tradition is before you make kiddush, before you bench shlicht, you put challah on the table. You put challah on the table. Everybody, it's old for the last 3,000 years. Okay, women put challah, or men put challah on the table. Why do you put challah on the table before lich benching? Put it on after lich benching. Put it on by kiddush. Why do you put it on?
By kiddush, before kiddush.
I understand. Why can't you put it 2 minutes before kiddush? Why do you do it before candle lighting?
I don't know.
Because on the table, if you have the leichter, the candles, I'm saying, okay. A lot of people have the licht on the table. Now, if you have the licht on the table, then the table becomes a base for muktzah. Meaning, even after the fire is out, after the candles are extinguished, it's still muktzah for the entire Shabbos. Okay? Especially the candle holder that you lit that Shabbos. The candle holder that you lit that Shabbos, because the candle holder is a base for the flame and the candle, and that's completely muktzah. So the candelabra you lit that week is completely muktzah, you can't move it for any reason. If there's another candelabra on the table, another leichter that you didn't light that Shabbos, if you need the place, you can move it because it's keli shemalachte le'isr. What's a candle holder is made to light fire, which you're not allowed to. So a regular candle holder that you're not using on Shabbos, right, is keli shemalachte le'isr. So if you need the place, you can move it. The candle holder you lit that day, Shabbos, the table remains muktzah for the whole Shabbos. So therefore, what do you gain by putting challah on the table? When you put challah on the table, then the table becomes a base for muktzah, non-muktzah. And again, what's muktzah? The flame. The challah is more valuable to you than the flame, so then the table becomes a base for Muktzah and non-Muktzah, with the non-Muktzah more valuable. So therefore, after the candles are out, if you need to move the table, you can move the table. With the candles on. But after they go out. You can't do it while it's lit, because then you're flickering the candles. What? Not the candles. You can move the table with the candles on it. If there's challah on the table.
The table and that.
But see, you need to move the table somewhere. If there's no siddur, there's no...
candles on it, like Shabbos day. You're saying on Shabbos day.
What?
Like on Shabbos day, you can
No.
move, after the candles, they've been, whatever, they went out, you can move the whole table. You're saying
But
the whole
if
table.
there was challah on it before Shabbos, or a siddur on it before Shabbos, because Muktzah begins when Shabbos begins. For instance, if the candles are on the table by themselves, when candle lighting and Shkia came, right? And then later on, before Kiddush, you put down the challah, it's already too late. Because when Shabbos began, the table was already a base for Muktzah only. So the challahs have to be put on if you want to move the table.
A lot of people
Right.
put the bread, the challah in the oven,
So then they need to put a siddur on the table. They need to put other challah or a siddur or whatever. But there's another issue with that. Many people put the candles on the tray, and then before Shabbos they'll put a siddur on the tray. Because on Shabbos you can't move the tray. The tray is a basis for the candles, right? So you can't Shabbos morning take it away. Let's say you're having more guests Shabbos morning, you need the place. So you can't take away the candles because it's completely Muktzah. Some people want to do...
What's the siddur?
No, 1 second. So what some people do, they put a siddur on the tray, then the tray becomes a base for Muktzah and non-Muktzah, and then many people say you can move the tray. But Alter Rebbe doesn't hold like that. Alter Rebbe comes off and Alter Rebbe, you're not allowed to do that. No, I'm just saying there are opinions if you see people do it, because there are opinions that hold you allowed to do it.
The tray with the candles on it.
Right, with the challah or a siddur.
Okay, after...
But that's only after the candles are out.
Go to Yom Tov is already...
Oh, Yom Tov, you can do it.
Right?
Yom Tov is not a problem. Yom Tov you light candles. Okay, wallets, pocketbooks, if they're used for Muktzah, non-Muktzah, then they're Keli Shemalachti Le'issa, you can move it for the place you need it to do something, or like for instance, if you, again, we learned all the way at the beginning, Muktzah is not touching. You're allowed to touch. You can't move. Many times I'll tell you, you're talking about women, I'll tell you cases of men. Men have the towels and tefillin in one bag. Right? Shabbos morning, they forgot that they remembered, they didn't take out the towels from the tefillin bag. So you have the tefillin in first, and then outside is the talis, right? Because they put on the talis first. So you put inside, deeper in the bag, you put the tefillin, and then outside of the bag, you keep the talis. So Shabbos morning, if a man forgot that he didn't take out his talis, now tefillin and muktzah, we said, right? So therefore, you can open the zipper, take out the talis, and it's not a problem. Now, musical instrument cases and musical instruments. Now, last time we discussed musical instruments depends what type of instrument it is. If you have $1,000 or $10,000 violin, yeah, you're not going to, now normally a musical instrument is keli shemalachti le'isit. You can't play instruments in Shabbos, right? So based on that, you would be allowed to move it if you need the place, or you want to, I'll give you, those little flutes the kids play, what do they call them? What do they call them? The khalil, what the kids play with it. Recorder it's called, yeah, recorder.
Yeah.
So that's, that is keli shemalachti le'isit. It's on the table, you need the place, you can move it. But if you have an expensive guitar, an expensive violin, expensive something, you're not allowed to move it for anything on Shabbos. Because you're not going to use a violin to crack open a nut. You're not going to use a guitar that's who knows how many thousands of dollars to put something in it, whatever. You're not going to use it. So therefore, it's what's called Muktzah Machmas Chsorin Kis. You're going to lose money, and therefore it's forbidden. Completely Muktzah. Now the case is, it depends. If you only use the case for this expensive violin, then the case is also Muktzah. If you use other things, then it's not. That's only case Shemlach to listen. For instance, if somebody has a very expensive telescope, a very expensive camera, expensive, those types of things, that is all in the category of Kelish Malachtim Le'isr. I'm sorry. Chsarin Kis, which is a loss of money, they're completely Muktzah. If you said the iPhones, you have an expensive camera, right? Any type of these scientific things which are very expensive, that you're only going to use it, a telescope, if you have an expensive telescope, you're not going to use it for anything else but looking in a telescope. So then it's completely Muktzah. You can't move it for any other reason. Okay, let's go to Tanya.